Hey everyone, this is Fabio and welcome to a new discussion video. Today it's a great day. I'm very happy because I was finally able to finish a certain game that allowed me to complete an entire trilogy of games, and it's something that it didn't happen in a while, and it gave me a sense of satisfaction that I was really proud of myself. I'm talking about Legend of Heroes 3 Song of the Ocean, or I should say the real title, Legend of Heroes 5, A Cage Song of the Ocean, should be the translation, but let's call it Song of the Ocean. I prefer the sound of it. The third and final chapter of the Gagharv Trilogy, originally released in Japan for PCs by Falcom. It was re-released on the PSP, as we saw, in 2006, and curiously enough, it's the only game in the trilogy that was not re-released before the PSP version, contrary to both Moonlight Witch and Tear of Vermilion, since, for example, Moonlight Witch was re-released on the Saturn, Tear of Vermilion on PS1, and then both of them on PSP and other PC versions, while Song of the Ocean is the only one that stayed on PC, and then the PSP remake. As I said, the final game on the Gagharv Trilogy, and it's I was so happy to have played all this game and complete it, because it gave me a real perspective of how these Falcom RPGs, this Falcom trilogy, are supposed to be played and especially to be enjoyed. Of course, I have to said it because I want to do the same with Trace in the Sky, because these are the games that precede Trace in the Sky. This is Legend of Heroes 5. Trace in the Sky is Legend of Heroes 6. And I really want now to enjoy the same involvement in the story, the same enjoyment of these characters with that saga that potentially, for what I know, because I know that it's very famous, it's well loved by Falcom fans and RPG lovers in Japan and everything, but from what I know, from what I expect from second chapter and the third, it might be so good. I mean, Trace in the Sky alone, it's a masterpiece, so I can always only imagine how good this second chapter and the third will be. Let's talk about Song of the Ocean and the Gagharv Trilogy, because this is the reason why I'm making the video. The first thing that I want to mention before going with the usual pattern with story and everything, it's the fact that to me, Song of the Ocean, it's the only game in the Gagharv trilogy that you cannot play on its own, and I highly recommend it not to do it, for the simple reason that you will not understand it, you will not enjoy this game, because it's full of connections with Moonlight Witch in particular. It's also connected, of course, with Tear of Vermilion for certain things, and certain characters from Tear of Vermilion are playable characters in Song of the Ocean, as I will explain later. But the story, it's so connected with Moonlight Witch that it makes it necessary to have played Moonlight Witch before or later. And let me explain why. Song of the Ocean, it's, to me, a way to confirm that Namco Bandai really screw up the releases of these games. Playing in this order, Tear of Vermilion, Moonlight Witch, Song of the Ocean, it's not right. It doesn't make sense, because this is not nuclear physics. You can understand the games even if you play in this order, but I think that you will not enjoy it at its fullest. You will not. I think that playing in two different ways, it's how you should, and it allows you to enjoy the story at its best, because you can do two things, as I was saying. First of all, as I usually prefer to do this, just follow the release, or the original release order, the way Falcom released this game, the way they publish it. So play Moonlight Witch first, Tear of Vermilion second, and finally Song of the Ocean. This is how I did, and I'm very happy because you can see all the connections in the right place. Because if you place, I don't know, it's interesting to have played Moonlight Witch before, but I don't know, it's kind of really screwed up that way. But follow the release order. It's always the best solution with me. It's just, it happens recently while I was rewatching the Fate series, the anime, because there's this question: where should I start? Stay Night or Zero? You can do whatever you want basically with this. Or for Gagharv Trilogy, you can follow the chronology, the game chronology, because so going this way, play Tear of Vermilion first, Song of the Ocean second, and finally Moonlight Witch. Because after all, Tear of Vermilion it's the first game in the chronologically. That's right, because it takes place 7 years before Song of the Ocean and 49 years before Moonlight Witch. So it's interesting. It takes place. It kind of tells the story of this generation of people that had to face this threat. It's well connected from each other. And finally, I would like to say that, as I said, the only one that it's playable on its own, it's Tear of Vermilion, definitely, definitely, because the final boss and the story, it's not entirely connected with the things in Moonlight Witch and Song of the Ocean. But let's go into the story of Song of the Ocean. And of course, I will try to avoid spoilers and all that stuff. The story takes place in the world of Welt Lunan, so a third different world contrary to Tierra's Will and Elfildin, the set of Moonlight Witch and Tear Vermilion, and follows the adventure, the travel of a group of musicians led by an old man called McBain, followed by his grandson Forte, the main protagonist of the game, his, I think, childhood friend, best friend, whatever, Una, and their dog, Jan. It's curious that you have a dog as a playable character. I mean, I'm a dog person. I love dogs, but it was kind of weird because I mean, dogs don't talk, so it's a weird way to express him. And well, I don't know. It was funny in a way. And progressively, you meet a lot of other characters for a total towards the end of 13, 14 playable characters or something like that. And at the beginning of the game, McBain receives a book from his apprentice friend Shao, a book that contains information about a certain melody, the melody of the ocean, which is a sort of legendary lost piece of music composed by a very, very famous musician called Leone Richter. And this is the event that triggers McBain to go travel the world before he dies so that he can collect all the pieces of music and finally compose this song of the ocean. There you go, this melody of the ocean. And this is just the beginning, and progressively, again, this is, I think, a similar trait with Moonlight Witch, especially in terms of story, because this is a really nice, innocent start, and the game, up until half, I'll say, it's like this. It's basically you travel around the world, solving some problems, doing some quests, something like that, while collecting these pieces of music. It's very nice, it's very quiet, it's very innocent. It was like, oh, this is nice, but nothing is really happening. But then there is the halfway point that it's the party on the islands. I'll just say that when you play in this and you reach this place, you know from that moment the story started to get really good and really interesting and more mature and everything. It's very similar to Moonlight Witch. Now wait, Tear Vermilion was more serious from the start, I think. I have this impression that, again, with Song of the Ocean, they went back to the Grandia-ish feeling. That it's always very well accepted by me. I mean, as I said for Moonlight Witch, I love Grandia. I love the innocence of it. So a really quiet beginning. There's nothing wrong with it, of course. But as I said, from the halfway point of the game, the story gets better and better and better progressively. That's towards the end. You're really into this story and you really like it. At the point that there are, again, like in Moonlight Witch, is another connection, the fate of two worlds it's into your hands because of it's all connected to the events of almost 1,000 years before when Gagharv was created. So again, it's, I mean, you're at this point you already know what Gagharv is because it's well explained in Tear Vermilion, but you have the final explanations because it's all connected with this um, tribe of people. Let's just say this. I don't want to spoil it, so let's just say there was this people 1,000 years before that did something that created Gagharv and everything. All the Gagharv trilogy takes place, and so it's an interesting story, especially after halfway. It's starting to get better and better, and it leads to a really good conclusion at the end that it says this is the end of the Gagharv trilogy because you know what is going to happen next, and that is when Tear of Vermilion, Moonlight Witch takes place. In fact, it's so interesting that it has such heavy connection with Moonlight Witch because a lot of characters from Moonlight Witch started to appear. For example, the Moonlight Witch appears and was like, "Oh, look at here! It's her! It's the Moonlight Witch." The main antagonists of Moonlight Witch are here. Although, look who's here again. Nice to see you still alive, you bastards. And but also at the same time, since we're moving into the characters, um, I was really surprised that they reuse characters from Tear Vermilion. It was an excellent surprise. I didn't expect it. Um, basically, at one point, soon after the halfway point of the islands, but I'm not spoiling anything by saying this, there is a scene that you have to gather soldiers into a theater in order to distract them, blah, blah, blah. Um, it's funny that after all the soldiers are inside the theater, you can see Avin and Mile from Tio Remilio running inside it. I didn't expect it, so, oh, look at that! Those were Avin and Mile. Fantastic cameo, very funny. And I thought that was it. Soon after, they actually appear, like you saw them, because at first they're just running, I mean, it was like not entirely sure, but they looked really like Avin and Mile. Then you saw them, they talk about each other, it was like, whoa, Avin and Mile, what are you doing here, by the way? Wasn't Gagharv supposed to be um, unreachable, impossible to travel with? Doesn't matter. But it was very nice. Again, I thought even more as a better cameo that even help you. But then you can actually use them again. I mean, I was like, oh yes, I can use Avin again. This is fantastic because I love Avin from Tear Vermilion. It's a fantastic character in that game. In here, it's a really good supporting character. And again, there's Avin, there's Michael. He's called Mitchell in this game. I always thought his name was Michael. Who is probably the most essential character in the entire trilogy because it's one of the few characters who actually is in all three of the games. And there's also Thomas, Captain Thomas. I was like, oh, okay. I didn't really see why he should be here. And that's the thing. I started then. I was really excited at first, but then I started to think about it. Probably I shouldn't because I'm just going thinking this too deep about this. I was like, okay, there's Avin, Mile, Mitchell, Thomas. It's funny, but why Rutis isn't here? That was my main concern. I was like, why shouldn't that Rutis should be here? I mean, she is one of the. It's probably the second, third, depends, most important character in Tear Vermilion, and it doesn't make sense that she's not in this game as well, because at the end of Tear Vermilion, I'm not going to tell you what happened, but something happened, and it's absolutely impossible not to see her together with Avin at that point. So it was kind of, I was like, I cannot see Avin going, oh, well, the route is, I'm going to another world, you can stay here and wait. Like, okay, see you later. No. They probably didn't think this entirely, but it's just a detail, it's not important. It's just me because I love her so much from Tear Vermilion side. She really should be here. But let's talk about the characters in Song of the Ocean. From Song of the Ocean. Let's do not go into Tear Vermilion too much. And this is where I have probably the only complaint. It's not really a complaint. It's again a detail, but it didn't ruin the game at all. I mean, but I thought this kind of constantly while I was playing the game. And the thing is, this game really felt like a step back from Tear Vermilion, back to Moonlight Witch. And if you saw my review of Moonlight Witch, my discussion of Moonlight Witch, um, I said the characters are good, but I didn't feel like I didn't see much of a development. This is the same thing. It's the same thing with Song of the Ocean. We have good characters, but the development, it's not complete. At least it's not entirely there. Maybe there's something more than Moonlight Witch, but they can surely not compete with the characters of Tear Vermilion and Stars in the Sky, since it's the following game. I mean, in Tear Vermilion, I was impressed with the development of Avin, the development of Rutis, the story of Mile. I mean, those characters were really interesting. You really got attached to them. In Song of the Ocean, again, you're thinking, these are good characters, but where is the development? I mean, it was so good in Tear Vermilion. Why not here? I mean, Forte, again, is a good guy. I like him. He's a nice main character. But Avin was so much better in. I mean, as I said in my review of Tear Vermilion, I was really attached to Avin. I felt his growth, his development was the game. Like from like the guy that he was at the beginning, progressively grew up and became a better person. He changed towards the game. I didn't see this or felt this while playing Song of the Ocean. Like again, Forte, it's really like Jurio. He's a nice guy, but that's about it. I really didn't feel a development. Like the story between Forte and Una, for example, because from the first moment of the game, it's clear and it says that Una has a strong crush on Forte and she wants to confess her love for him. And at first, the first like 5 minutes of the game, she tries constantly to talk to him about this. But after a while, for the entire rest of the game, nothing. I mean, what happened? It's not that the romantic development is essential, but it's a development. It's you can do so much more if something like that happened. For example, but there was one scene during the game that they started to talk about their feelings and everything. So there it is. 2 seconds later, oh, it's over because we have to move on. Let's mm, reach Grandpa Mac. So again, it's like they started to develop them, then they forgot to continue and say, oh yeah, there is some development between the two of them, and only at the end of the game there is really a scene where you can see, oh, okay, I get it. It happened. But again, it's like they forgot this. I mean, like, what happened? Then the character of Jan, I mean, it's funny to have a dog, but really? Dog? Again, I'm a dog person, but it's not that you can develop a dog too much. It was an interesting way to do it, and I don't know. I liked him. It was funny to see Jan with Rachel, for example, or like when everybody's talking, hearing barking is like a way to approve or something like that. It was funny. Um, Two characters that are probably my favorite of the game in a way, but they are also the most wasted in a way, are Shao and Rachel. Why are they wasted to me? They have a big potential in a way, because like Shao, as I said, it's the disciple friend of McBain, while Rachel is his daughter, and I thought they had a bigger part in in this story, since actually this entire story started because of Shao. He's the one who found the book. He's the one who gave the book to McBain. So it's all thanks to Shao that everything started. But then again, they disappear for 90% of the game in a way. You can use them in a couple of occasions, but again, I think they could have been a great addition, like the comic relief, for example. Um, I would love to use Xiao and Rachel more often. And they had their chance to shine towards the end of the game, and it's kind of wasted again because there is a point that everything seems lost or everything seems screwed up because of what happened at the end. And I didn't see that coming, I have to say, that almost at the end part, the final enemy and stuff like that, I really didn't see that coming. There was a real good turn of events, really unexpected. And everything seems lost, but then I saw, there they are. Rachel and Shao are going to save the day, finally. No, they don't, because Thomas said, it would be really useful if Michael would be here. There you go. Michael is there, saves the day. I mean, come on. You had all the time you want in Tear Vermilion to shine. Make the characters from this game shine. Make Rachel and Shao shine because they are so funny. They are musicians like McBain, the McBain company, like McBain, Forte, and Una, but in a different way. I think because Shao is obsessed with money. He sound because he wants to get rich, to get money. Rachel is more in this weird relation with her dad. He always like, well, don't mind my dad, he's an idiot, something like that. But she's always following him. She always ready to save him and supports him. It's a really fun couple. In a way, they remind me of Shirley and Goose from Moonlight Witch, and they were my favorite characters because they were so much fun. I love these kind of fun characters. But in Rachel and Shaw were so not. I don't know if wasted is the correct term, but I wanted to use them more. Then another one that I would prefer in a different way was Altos. They're all secondary characters, so it really doesn't matter. But I love this series so much, and I love RPG so much that, of course, I always going to analyze every single character, every single thing. And while I'm talking like this, it's not that I didn't like the game of the characters. I just wanted something more because I liked it. I enjoyed it. I wanted to enjoy it even more. So don't misunderstand my words. But Altos is this kind of obvious story because I'm looking for my sister, blah blah blah. I was like, come on, we already saw that in Moonlight Witch. Try something different, guys. But in Tear Vermilion with Ruka and Rutis, but um, help me find my sister, stuff like that. I would prefer something different because it's obvious that I would like, from the way he started, I would like a sort of rivalry with Forte, right? Because in a music competition, he actually beats Forte. So I thought, ooh, I will like, as not necessarily an enemy, but a rival. They don't get along very well. Something like this would be more interesting and kind of different. Of course, now they become best buddies. He travels with you, and just say how Altos has a really big moment in the game, uh, in the second part of the game. Just say like that. Um, Naturally, I have to mention there's Arya and Aida. Probably one of the most fun characters in the game. I really like her. She's really funny because of this really um, high-spirited and tomboy girl. So she's really funny. It's one of the best characters, I think. She also has kind of a nice development, I think, with her love for her grandfather, their work, and everything. Really like Aida. Um, so yeah, that's kind of about it about the characters. I mean, they're good. They have potential, but it's not um, used enough. I think from the main characters. For example, I didn't like McBain as much as I should probably. Uh, Come on, there's a reason I think why video games, anime, and everything usually use young people as main protagonists because you connect with them better with an old man. I was like, yeah, McBain is a cool old guy, but I prefer to use Rachel or someone else. Another curious thing that um, made me think about the characters is that to me something was missing from in the timeline between. Song of the Ocean and Moonlight Witch. There's all the story about this person Ortega, and I have to be honest. At the beginning, I was expecting that Ortega was a playable character in Song of the Ocean. It's like it's the only thing missing. It's in the story of Moonlight Witch, and it's mentioned in Song of the Ocean, but nothing. So I was like, oh, okay, why do we have this? I mean, I like that it's a better explanation and part of the history of these words, of this world. But why mention him if you don't use him? I mean, it's just me thinking out loud, but anything. Let's move on from the characters. And again, nice characters, but not developed enough again. It was, as I said, it was kind of a step back from the excellent development of Tear Vermilion to the good characters of Moonlight Witch, but without that sort of development that, in my opinion, doesn't have to form a strong attachment to those characters. You're constantly thinking, these are good characters, I like them, but not as much as I should probably. Or at least, this was my feelings. And let's move on to two of the best things of this game, actually. And that is, first of all, the combat system uh, and the magic system. Um, the combat system in Song of the Ocean is by far the best of the entire Gagharv Trilogy. And in a way, it's the only one that can actually compete with the excellent one of Trails in the Sky. It's not as good, but it's almost as good, I think, especially compared with the very simple one of both Moonlight Witch and Tear Vermilion. The general idea is the same. I mean, the graphics and everything are the same, but it's more deep. It's deeper than both of the others because, first of all, you can ambush enemies. You can be ambushed by enemies, and that is like if they attack you from behind, vice versa, and that allows you or them to have an additional turn at the beginning. And that was already good. It wasn't in neither Moonlight Witch nor Tear Vermilion. And it's fantastic the way they make makes you use the deadly moves. It's a in both Moonlight Witch and Tear Vermilion, you can use them as ready as your like power meter is full. You can use this very powerful attack. Um, it's basically the same in Song of the Ocean, but in the menu when you can select your moves like attack, magic, blah blah blah, you do not see deadly move. I was like, oh, where are the deadly moves? I want to perform them. You discover like if you press circle when your power meter is full, you can perform the deadly move. But it's done in a really intelligent way, I think. It makes you think more to be like, I really should save this for the right occasion because if you use your deadly move during the enemy's turn, you interrupt that turn. The same thing, if you use it during your turn, you interrupt your turn. So it adds an element of strategy and thinking in combat. And especially save them from boss battle. That's the thing, that it's essential to save them from boss battle because it really can save you during a difficult battle because it interrupts the turn. Even if it's a boss, it doesn't matter. So it's really well done. And also, I think that the magic system is done very well in terms that magic is explained well in a way. You cannot use it at the beginning, contrary to Moonlight Witch and Tear Vermilion. But you can use them after you start to get the resonance stone, which is a part, it's connected with the story, of course. The stones, it's where Leone's symphony is engraved, so you progressively obtain part of the Song of the Ocean. But at the same time, they allow you to use resonance spells. It's how they call magic. Like you can cure, you can use offensive magic, support magic, and stuff like that. Um, it's interesting. It's an interesting way to explain the use of magic for normal people. And at the same time, the coolest thing ever is you can perform combos with magic. If you use, for example, lightning magic and fire, you can see an animation with fire and lightning and stuff like that. That was really, really cool. The only complaint that I have with that is that it's kind of limited in a way. Only 3 characters among like how many, 13, 14 characters or something can use these stones. And it forces you, obviously there is an element of strategy there because it forces you to find the best combination for each character. For example, with Una, I focus her on healing spells and some sort of support spells and spirit spells. So because she has the strongest, like the higher abilities in magic attack and magic defense, I mean, it's all up to you. Like Forte, I focus him on physical, like McBain, on physical magic and some sort of support. But it's so limited. I mean, just 3 characters can use the stones, so it's for a total of 12 stones. Because each character can be equipped with 4 stones. So all the others are useless, basically. And I don't understand why the other characters cannot use resonance stones. I can understand Arya. I can understand Jan, of course. He is a dog. But why Aida cannot use the stones? Why, I don't know, Altos? Why not Palman? And again, I can understand Avin and Mile because they use the magic from Elfildin, which is different. But it could have done a bit better because it was really good, but then there's this tiny thing that makes it incomplete in a way to me. It's kind of weird, but I mean, it's a really good system, but you wish for more. I mean, come on, why not Aida? It doesn't make sense. Anyways, really good magic system, but with this small fault that makes it like 99%. That's kind of weird. Let's move on to the technical thing of this game. So the graphics, the music. The graphics are basically the same from like in Moonlight Witch and Fury Vermilion. So it's good. It's really good. I'm never be tired to say that I love this sort of 16-bit graphics. These sprites are so gorgeous to look at, and maybe certain part of the game, like the graphics, are done better. Maybe, I'm not sure. It was just like the thing is, I'm not so obsessed with graphics, so I don't really look at things. But um, probably some animations are done in a better way than Theory Million and Moon Witch. Like, for example, the magic animation is really well done, especially the combos. It's gorgeous to look at that. But for like the most part, it's the same graphics. The rest of the trilogy. Music. I was thinking about this. It's a really good soundtrack. Again, not like Moonlight Witch. I was paying attention to this game in terms of graphics and music. And I was thinking, this is a game focused on music, of course. So it has a big role, and there's plenty of nice scores and tunes. In fact, I was thinking about buying the soundtrack. I don't have it. Um, because there are 2 CDs. It's like part 1, part 2. It's really long. It's a really long soundtrack, and it makes sense. As I said, it's a game focused on music. It should be long, but then some part was not as good as the Urban Million. But overall, it's a really good soundtrack. I kind of recommend it, and listen to some of the scores are really good. So good music, good graphics, the usual gorgeous 16-bit kind of graphics. Um, let's just wrap this up with some final um, thoughts. Because as I said, um, there are overall, I really like this game. It has a good story. It fits very well as the middle chapter of the Gagharv Trilogy, even though it was the final release. It's very well connected with Moonlight Witch. There are certain things that drove me mad in this game. One is the final dungeon. I have to say this because up until that point, the story was really well. Something happened to make it even more interesting. It was really gripping. I was like, this is going really well. I mean, I really like the story. There's the tension started to build up very well. At that point, it's time for the final battle, the final dungeon. There is a part that's so slow in a way that almost killed the tension. And this crescendo, let's use a musical term, this crescendo of a story And that is the final dungeon, because it's this sort of small labyrinth that, and to access to the device that will save the world, basically, you have to prove the correct use of the resonance stones. So for a lot of times you have to like re-equipped the stones in a different way. So like you used to use the eyes of your mind. Okay, you have to use the mind spell. You used to use this and this together. You used to this and this. After 6 times, I get it. Can we move on? It's the only complaint I have. That final dungeon, it's kind of boring. It's quite boring actually, because you have to do the same thing over and over again for like 6 or 7 times. Like, I get it the first three. Why have to do it this so many times? And then the final boss is a pain in the ass, because basically it's divided into 8 parts or something. It has 8 things that attacks you. I was like, oh, Jesus Christ! I mean, talking about frustrating boss. But I have to say, it seems bad, but once you get it, once you understand the pattern of that boss, it gets really easy actually. When you understand where you have to move, which parts attack first, it gets kind of easy. I did it in my third attempt, so nothing too impossible. But at first was really frustrating, because if you get killed at that battle, the game takes you back to the battle before the final battle. So you have to do that, and then the final battle again. But after that, you have this really nice conclusion that fits very well with the events of Moonlit Witch. So overall, this is a really good game, but in a way, I think I was kind of spoiled a little by Tear Vermilion, and certain things weren't as good to me. Again, Song of the Ocean, it's a really good game. Nothing about it. Definitely play this after you play all the others. Don't play this on its own, because you will not get everything, basically nothing, and you will not enjoy it. It's a really good RPG. Certain things, as I was talking about, were not as perfect. I mean, not as good as as I wanted. Like some certain characters, the development of the characters. But it was a step back to Moonlight Witch, which is not a bad thing. As I always said, Moonlight Witch is not bad at all. It's just that Tear Vermilion to me was so good that it's easily the best game of the series. And like, see, the characters were good, but not as good. That kind of things that it doesn't ruin the game at all, but it just makes you wish for more. And that's why we have Trace in the Sky for, or Tear Vermilion. I mean, we have these more complete games, more these deeper games in terms of characters and others. And because this is just me, of course, I always look for the characters, the character development. That's the thing that really, and the story, of course. So the story of Song of the Ocean is really good, so that was not a problem. It's just started kind of slow, but it makes sense that it's that slow. I mean, it's very well explained. It's very interesting how it develops. That's the only thing. The characters were not as developed as I wanted, and certain characters in particular. So overall, I highly recommend Song of the Ocean only if you played Moonlight Witch and Tear Vermilion before. Don't play this on its own. Again, you will not enjoy it. So this is it, guys. I did it. I finally finished the Gagharv Trilogy. Finally discussed all the games, so I can move on my gaming with both. I have an RPSP game going, and I get a Game Boy Advance game going, and a DS game going, so I can finally focus on those. It was kind of a marathon, but it was totally worth it. I mean, double big thumbs up for the Gagharv Trilogy. Moonlight Witch, Tear Vermilion, Song of the Ocean, excellent games, fantastic overall story. It really makes you want more. You really want these Falcon RPGs. That's the thing. I mean, it's not a surprise that after I played the Trace in the Sky and the other games, Legend of Heroes is becoming one of my favorite RPG series of all time. These games are really good. I mean, excellent stories, fantastic soundtrack, great characters, some more than others, let's say, but such a great stories. I love these games. So this is it. This whoa, this video was really long. I didn't expect it. But hey, it's the final chapter of the trilogy. I'm allowed to to talk a bit more. Thanks for watching, guys. Like always, hope you enjoyed it. See you next time.